Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today, and hopefully it will be another very productive session dedicated for growth, because Virtual Founders event is a recurring event that it's supporting the development of local entrepreneurs. We do that through the leadership, presentation of the best practices, facilitating matchmaking, and also the high-level discussion among growth between our startup founders and also enterprise decision makers. And the event is organized by the foundation supporting #OMGKRK. So for those of you who do not know us, we are all an entrepreneurial NGO with the mission of building the world-class innovation ecosystem in Krakow. And we do that mainly through promoting the ecosystem abroad, like ecosystem branding, but we do that also through the membership matchmaking and connecting our members with other decision makers from the region and also abroad. And we also try to support acceleration initiatives. So all the types of meetups and programs that support the growth of early stage founders, but also more scale-up companies that are within the region. And I would be the host of today's event, which is quite special for us because this edition is supported by Małopolska, which is our regional government long-lasting partner, and that is supporting not only ours but also other entrepreneurial initiatives in the region. And we are very proud to have this type of partner with us today. And this event will be strictly dedicated for presenting the growth tips, especially in the fintech environment, because we have invited Grzegorz Wojcik, the founder and CEO of the Autenti, who will one of the leading fintech companies in the region, and we'd be happy to hear his growth tips and some breakthrough moments in the Autenti's growth that he could share with us, and hopefully we could use that as a learning process for your initiatives. And as Paul mentioned, this part of the session where Grzegorz will be presenting his knowledge and best practices will be recorded, and it can be later on, available on YouTube. And also the part of discussion will be also available to all others that couldn't attend us today but expressed interest. And later on, we will have more, let's say, personal time during which we could have some breakout rooms and also more in-depth discussions. So thank you again for joining us for this another session dedicated to growth. And now I leave the floor to Grzegorz so that he can start the discussion and give us some floor for further knowledge exchange.
Thank you, Dominika. It's a great pleasure to be over here with you. Obviously, I prepared a couple of information for you in terms of Autenti, as some of you are curious, why Autenti is called the fintech, and how does it work, and what made us grow at a specific period in time in each phase. So I'll try to put the slide deck. Can you all see the screen?
Yes, everything is visible.
That's great. So okay, so let's start from introduction of my person. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of Autenti, and my journey actually with Autenti is a long and I would say a marathon way of doing business, and you will see why that was so extensive and why it is so challenging each day. So basically, what we have done is we have made Autenti as a trust services platform. It's an ecosystem which works on e-signatures and remote identification. It's a solution that helps businesses to remotely sign agreements, do workflow of internally within companies, and obviously use it for many other use cases, as you will see. So all of the discussion about the growth and the tips, I could say, are starting with the team. So, Autenti wouldn't be Autenti if not the team, especially the co-founders. There is a lot of discussions how to make great businesses, but the best is obviously to team up with the people who really have it in their experience. So basically, all of the co-founders had a vast experience in different fields. We are all from internet industry, but as you can see, we've been working with different type of ventures in the past. So it was both radio, it was horizontal portals, it was multimedia, streaming, it was community sites, it was e-commerce, so different experiences, and all of that is actually extremely crucial because when you do things which are innovative, you need to take a look at different perspectives at the same object to see it from different angles, and it helps a lot to see it from different category perspectives. So, for example, Autenti leading founding team is based on my person, obviously, but also Tomasz, who has a vast experience in media marketing, and he's also a guy keen on sports. So basically, you can see a lot of stuff, and the hints from him how to behave in different situations are coming from. And Bartosz, he's a very good lawyer, and especially in business like ours, it's all about understanding not only the law, because the law is easy, but actually understanding how to move things which are compliant with legal system, at the same time be convincing on a really extensive level to make sure that your ideas can be pushed through and introduced to others which are not believing that they can actually work. So if you have a good lawyer, you basically have a person who can make a really good set of arguments for you to work when you convince your customers. So very quickly, Autenti is all about changing a problem that I've noticed with my experience in the past, that I had a lot of business on my to-do list, and all the time this business was stuffed with paper on the desk, agreements to be signed, all of different internal documentation and other stuff like that, and all of them in terms of circulation of those document flow were completely ineffective. So basically documents between the moments they have been agreed and the moments they have been concluded, it took often weeks, literally weeks, sometimes even months to finalize a contract. And most of this time was not a collaboration on the contract, but actually all of the logistics behind it. So basically both excessive time and cost, and obviously all of those problems with the paper documents that are missing. Some people are claiming that they have not received something, while that's obviously not true, but it's simply laying on a desk somewhere. So as today, all of the documents are created digitally, all of them, either those are laptops or smartphones, but very, very few documents need to be created manually as of today. Why to print them out and be stopped by this logistics? So basically, this is where Autenti came from. So my vision behind is that actually this is something that touches every company, every business, every consumer, and I strongly believe that it's not a matter when, but it's a matter how exactly will the transformation happen, because it's already happening as we speak, as we have seen this also through the pandemic times. But we'll be using digital signatures for the use cases between business, between consumers, also between government. And the question is how it should look like for us to be effective and working fine. So the product that we have created is kind of a mix of e-signatures, which is very well-known technology for almost 20 years. But on top of it is innovative technology and this legal setting, which are making it just working. And it works for two different target groups. One is the business owners, which are SMEs, where we do provide a self-service solution. And we provide simply a SaaS platform that everybody can use it, join instantaneously. But we also do, based on the same solution, business process automation. So basically, we take this concept of the signatures and make it automated in such a way that it can be integrated via APIs, expanded with different security features and implemented in large corporations. So basically, it's not only a platform which can do just the signature, but it's an end-to-end process solution provider as well. That makes a difference when you think about the signatures. The signature is just a name behind it, which is basically understood by many people, because we do have signatures from many years in the past. So the key thing about what I learned in the path of Autenti is that the key focus is the customer perspective. Actually, obviously, a happy customer is the customer that is spending less time with things which are boring for him or her. It's obviously a good tool for a cost reduction, but it's most importantly, it's about convenience. Now, those are the three perspectives that you look for any type of solution you want to have. Now, the key thing is how this moves your business and what are the objections behind implementing some kind of innovation into your life. And actually, what I've seen, the biggest obstacle for the growth of Autenti has always been problem with transformation to something new. So it was all about convincing others that you can try, and once you try, you will see that it's simply good for you. And this kind of hesitation, which is happening many times in many people, and you probably as founders see it in your businesses, you hear a lot of no's and a lot of things. That's good, but. And now it's all about listening to those things which are just objections and trying to move them around. So for example, the biggest pain I have always received was at the very beginning of Autenti, when everybody said, yes, that's a great solution, but what will happen if Autenti ceases to exist? If you hear such a question once, you say, okay, but if you're a founder and on every meeting you hear this kind of question, well, you say, well, I cannot say that this particular person was not the right fit for me. It's something bigger. So then you go back to your team and think, okay, so let's make our product independent, whether we exist or not. The solution must be bulletproof, because apparently customers don't want to see a product after which they sign something and they cannot longer see that it's valid, for example. So those are kind of questions and answers coming from our customers, which have moved us forward, and even more. There are over 2 million e-signatures last year used on our platform. Most importantly, we did it in kind of e-commerce way, so you cannot see this physical type of signature and even visualization of a physical handwritten signature, because it's simply the past. We believe that digital is really good enough in terms of security, in terms of the way it works, and it works on all types of transactions, especially if you use different type of solutions, technical and legal setting, that simply moves it forward. So the key difference about Autenti and how we made it forward is basically we have been looking at different solutions, also our competitors. And as you probably know, in Europe, we have so-called qualified e-signatures. So qualified e-signatures are the signatures which are based on a certificate after your identification has been verified, and they can be used as an equivalent of a handwritten signature, also for the official documentation for relationship with the government or very important documents. So instead of competing with a part of the market, we decided to make a platform in such a way that we can actually integrate us with our competitors, our potential competitors, who have become our partners. And that moved things a lot forward. So basically our competitors are no longer competitors. They are partners both on the IT level in terms of product integration, but also on the business level. So basically we do cooperate with them. We are the reseller. We make, you know, a lot of innovative products because we cooperate with others. So that is kind of a great thing to do. It takes a lot of time and discussion how to convince such competitors that it makes sense to cooperate rather than compete. But at the end of the game, you will see that that it pays off for both sides, and that's great. So what we did is we made a platform, the ecosystem, where we actually in our solution aggregate different type of solutions, both for e-signatures and remote identification. So we can actually use third-party solutions on top of our platform to facilitate business needs, both for the merchants, which are usually our customers, businesses, who request signatures or identification from their counterparties, and also consumers or simply people who are on the other end of transactions. So basically, we facilitate the platform that is protecting also both sides of the transaction. So both the merchant and the signatory, who is usually a weaker side of the transaction, because usually one side of the transaction pushes forward. The best case, it's equal, but it needs to be on the legal side equivalent for both. Now, coming back to what I wanted to discuss with you around, you know, why Autenti is called a fintech. So basically, I mentioned to you that e-signatures is just you know, brand you know, which is commonly known behind it, but in fact it's a technology platform that helps to automate business processes. For example, if you look at the bank, it's not the fact that you know that what you want to do is you want to sign a, you know, agreement for a loan or some kind of credit, whatever it is. But from the bank's perspective, it's a full process. So it's both, you know, how the customer will make application for a product. It's how about you will assess this product. What's the procedures between the application and the decision? What happens after the decision? So basically, each of those steps requires some kind of approvals at some point. And what we did is we have helped by obviously the banks itself mapped the customer's critical business processes. And we, in fact, took the ownership of this process. So by creating technology that facilitates it. And for example, BNP Paribas mentioned here is a bank where we started our journey, but we won a public national tender, international tender for this solution because we exactly understood what is needed behind what is called the signature is in fact the full process which plays a game over there. So currently we facilitate not only for one bank, but for many banks, different type of processes. And you know, such institutions love if this process is exactly the same each time. So this is why we call the business process automation. You basically rule out all of the weak points of inefficiencies and try to integrate directly to systems for them to work together. So having this concept made with one bank, obviously we wanted to make it. We wanted to make it with the second one, the third one, and the fourth one, and that was very challenging because you know if you work in enterprise software industry, you very often see that if you go to a large company, they always think that they do something unique to such an extent that they need exclusivity from you if you want to provide them technology. And that obviously is not a good idea, because if you want to create a platform which is universal, you cannot go for exclusivity. But how to make it work, how to make it how to convince others that if you are facilitating a critical process for one company, you can at the same time facilitate a critical process for another company, which is a competitor to the first company. So that was kind of the most challenging part we had. But actually, exactly the experience with the qualified service providers was repeated. So we really sat down with each of them and discussed all of the objections, all of the problems they could possibly imagine where they would block this kind of cooperation. And we actually reach out to them and converted them to customers, and even more. So when we saw that it's possible to cooperate, not to compete at each other, we have found that it's even possible to use banks, which are obviously the largest financial tech companies today. So basically, each of those of the companies which are big in financial industry are working on some kind of payments and different processes with consumers or businesses. So we sat together and we thought that it's a great space to make not only product relationship, but also investment. So we actually were able to facilitate our financial round of over 16 million zlotych. So it's a first multi-CVC investment in Central and Eastern Europe. So like 3 competing at each other banks agreed to cooperate with us and to create some standards about e-signature markets for the future. So right now it's even more. It's many different companies. Those are just a couple of examples, but basically almost 2,000 paying customers as we speak, where we work with really international companies. And what is good, this kind of strategy of open platform helped us also to win customers who have the corporate policy with some other competitors of ours. So basically, they do use e-signature platforms for some of the international operations, but for European approach, for what is needed in Poland or basically in Europe, where eIDAS regulation is, we have been able to win because of this interoperability with others. So the business model is like each SaaS model, so basically subscription based, but obviously for the enterprise companies, we do have a hybrid model of subscription plus transaction based, and of course professional services on top of that. And the key thing behind it is that we always try to show that we are able to move things forward because we do understand market where we are at. So basically, Europe is different than the States. Europe is more about less trust, actually, which means that the technology must provide more trust. So you can see a different type of trusting services must be present on the market to help facilitate business. But there are also cultural aspects or technology standards which we have basically built from ground up to this kind of setup, and making this solution an ecosystem with interoperability, marketplace approach, solutions which are made for enterprise level in terms of security, but they are available at a fraction of a cost for SMEs at the same time. And also, it's all about thinking that e-signatures is like e-commerce, so it's pretty much the same. We focus on 2 core branches of expansion with e-signatures and remote identification. This is what we do, and obviously this all wouldn't be possible without the team. So currently, Autenti is over 75 people on board. Obviously, the biggest growth came within the last 12 months, and we have hired over 50 new people to Autenti. Most of them have never seen each other physically because of the pandemic. So that is the biggest regret so far. We hope to change it very soon, but still it shows it's possible if we are able to share the same idea, if we are able to think proactively. That really works. So like the team spirit is really great here. And we are always thinking about what's gonna be next, but in some kind of a perspective. So back in 2017 on Google Campus, we had a workshop with many great people from around the world. They were like pushing us, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? So basically, we have really had a nice challenge to calculate everything, how it can move forward. And we said that by the 2025, we should be able to make 100 million documents being processed each month. So obviously, if you look at this kind of number, that's insane. You know, it's really huge number. So, you know, having this kind of objective is on one hand side something like, you know, that's unbelievable that you can actually do it. But on the other hand, you know, all of the Googlers said to us, don't worry, if you do 60% of this target, you will be the greatest winner. So basically, so far it goes according to the plan, but sometimes it's below, sometimes it's on track. And still, we believe that it's possible. This is on this picture, myself signing the OKR for the 10 to the power of 8. So, you know, this is kind of our mission to make things forward. And like everybody in our team thinks what we should do next to make the growth coming from different sides. So basically, that's kind of an introduction to our meeting. I hope that it was not too boring in terms of different business stuff that are usually not compliant with your businesses, but I hope that some of the past that we shared will be in fact a fit. So happy to discuss anything you want.
Yes, Grzegorz, thank you so much for that. I think that there were a lot of unique tips also presented. So I would like to give the floor, you know, obviously to you to ask the questions, because it's the time dedicated strictly for your growth. But before we go to that, maybe one question like from me, because I'm definitely a fan of you know, working with cooperating and you know, facilitating the connections even among competitors. And I'm a strong believer that you know, it's possible to find those synergies between even competitive actors, and as you mentioned, you know, try to convince them to come on board and work together. So can you tell us you know, maybe, I don't know, 2-3 objectives that those big players like banks had against like working together, and how you managed to convince them so that we can have some, let's say, practical approach towards this type of negotiations. If you could maybe give us some, I mean, you know, something that you can obviously share publicly.
Yeah, sure,
right?
sure. I mean, you know, that's kind of obvious with the banks. The banks are all about security. So if you imagine that you are processing the most important documents on the platform, it is all about security. So, you know, we've been always very open on the compliance stuff. So we've been building this kind of platform, knowing that when this happens, it has to be ready for this kind of thing. So we basically showed each and every bank, you know, okay, this is our solution. Please bring your auditors and let's discuss. You know, we are never pushing it. We always said, you know, please see this yourself. Give us your hints. We can implement your hints if you need them. So it wasn't that we were ready at the moment that we spoke. You know, we had a really, really long list of to do after audits. But, you know, we got those audits for free. Come on, because they wanted to see if we are really compliant. So basically, that's kind of a story behind it. That actually you can learn from the better guys from you on how to move forward, and this is what we did. And you know, once we knew how one bank thinks that, you know, a potential competitor could interact on the same platform, you know what to do. I cannot share obviously the details how it works, but I can say that the mechanism is always the same. You listen to your customer, what are the objections, and you try to implement your solution in such a way that they are removed. And typically, if it's like you know, one bank, second bank, third bank, those are the same stuff. So those are not completely different. It differs when you go across different industries, because, you know, the banking industry may have different regulation from medical sector, for example, or medical sector has a different needs from, you know, typical SME, where basically, you know, on one hand side, you see that the document integrity and different type of protection layers are more important than, you know, usability, for example, because usability is great, but, you know, not if it is again the security features. So those are kind of things that you need to take into account and actually make wise decisions. But, you know, listen and learn. That's it. That's so easy.
Yeah. So again, listen to your customers. This is always the best tip that YC was giving, and we see that also in practice. But can you tell us maybe one more thing? Because you mentioned that those banks eventually decided to, become the investors of Autenti, right? Yeah. Was that something you proposed from the day one, or was that something that came up during the discussions that it will be a way of securing those, maybe the growth of the platform into the direction that it's let's say, in line with their expectations? Like, what was their, let's say, the origin of that transaction, and how did you come up with this, like, very interesting co-investment, right?
That is a great question. Actually, when what I love about this story is that, there is Autenti and 5 partners, which are 3 of them are banks, 2 of them are VCs. And I would better have that each of them has their own story, how this came up. But obviously, I must say that that was planned. So obviously, we sat with founders and discussed what are the potential options for us in terms of the next financial round. And when we put this option on the table that the 3 banks are co-investing, or 2 or more, or 3 are co-investing, we said that, looking at the probability, it's the least probable from everything that we had. But we said that, okay, if this is the least probable, but it is still probable and great story, who, if not us, shall make it? And that we really, really had a action plan how to do it. That was not easy. I cannot reveal all of the details behind the curtains, but that was really challenging because it's not just 3 banks. 3 banks is that wouldn't be a challenge. Those are 3 different cultures. When you look at the bank's brands, those are 3 completely different companies. BNP Paribas is an international structure, and whatever you want to do, it just doesn't go directly in our country. It requires different type of approvals on compliance checks in international scale. When you go to the PKO BP, it's the largest Polish bank, obviously a great innovator in terms of industry, but on the other hand, very strictly demanding. And then you have Alior Bank, which was the first paperless bank. So actually, you can say that why they would need us if they have been the paperless business from the start. So 3 different cultures to discuss, and obviously on top of this you have VCs, which are our seed investors, great companies. But again, the cultural discussion was the biggest challenge over here. So when we're like negotiating the deal, it was like us and 40 people on the other side of the table, because those are not like single decision makers, in each of the company. There were the entire committees that needed approvals for this, with lawyers and other stuff like that. So that was the most challenging part. But actually, the fact that it's possible to do it was planned, and there were ups and downs. Finally, the outcome.